Appreciate that. What was your biggest mistake on the job? How did you handle it? What was the outcome?
Yeah. So what was my biggest mistake in the job? So people know I've been in same career for 20 years now, 21 years. Been in fundraising. Some people call it the salesperson in the nonprofit world, right? Because you're out there and you're meeting with people. You're hoping to hear that they have an interest in your mission, whether you're about the environment, about saving the whales, about helping abused children, about helping the elderly in our community, whatever it is. And my job is really well, I thought early on, here's the big mistake. I thought early on, my first couple of years, my job was to go out and sell the mission of my organization, which means meeting someone like you, Sam, and saying, oh, let me tell you all about Pearl Buck and what she did and who she was and the kind of good she did in the world. And now what we do today is blah, 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 X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I would just like I'm going to refrain from a term I learned early on. They used to call it mission regurgitation. I'll call it mission pitching constantly. You're constantly pitching your mission. And the thought process back there was, if I can get them as excited as I am about this mission, they're gonna give money, they're gonna donate, because it's just such a great mission, and they just have to give. And if I knew that the particular donor, let's say a business like Comcast in Philadelphia, one of the biggest multi-billion-dollar corporations, I don't know how much money they have, but they have a lot of money, and so I would say, oh, I'm gonna get an audience with somebody from Comcast. If I just pitch the heck out of them, they're so rich and so wealthy, they're just gonna naturally fall over and want to give. Well, let me tell you how that's a big mistake, because what I learned, I probably did that for the first half of my career, easily the first 10 years of my career. And even though I had at least one boss and a couple of people tell me, hey, Tony, we love your passion for the mission. It's part of what makes you so great at the job you do. But the reality is you need to just sometimes close your mouth and open your ears and listen to people. Not just talk and sell, but let them give feedback. Or better yet, before you even talk, just ask them what their story is. Ask them what their interest is, what inspires them in life. And I heard this a couple of times in a few different ways the first 10 years, but I was in my head convinced, nah, they got it all wrong. If I could just get them as excited as I am, they're just gonna wanna give. The reality is there's a lot of causes and a lot of needs in this world, and there's a lot of Tonys out there that are passionate about their causes. Again, whether it's the environment, whether it's a spiritual thing, whether it's, again, kids or seniors or animals or whatever it is, there's a lot of us out there doing this. And so it wasn't really until I said I've been in the nonprofit field for 20 years. I did take a 4-year break. After 8 years in the nonprofit field, I got a call from a local chamber of commerce in Central Bucks, Doylestown. And the executive director called me and said, hey, I've been watching you for the last 2 years, mixed amongst our business crowd, and you've been doing a really great job, I guess, building relationships. And so we have this job. It's a marketing and membership director. We want you to come aboard, and we want you to help us raise memberships for the Chamber of Commerce, get new businesses involved. And in that 4 years, I learned a lot. The biggest thing I learned, though, and here's where my aha moment was. Despite several people telling me, hey, you got to listen more, you got to listen more, you got to listen more, I would I had this sort of stubborn streak saying, nope, that's not who I am. So then one day at the Chamber of Commerce doing my job, our receptionist called me in my office and said, hey, Tony, we got a new young guy here who wants to join the Chamber of Commerce. Can you come out to the lobby and reception area and meet him? So I went out to the reception area. Now, mind you, I'm still operating under the same mindset of, oh, new members here. Okay, cool. So I tried a little bit to ask him about himself, and I said, I think his name was Joe. I said, Joe, what brings you here today? And he says, well, Tony, I'm an artist. I'm a woodworker. That's what I do. And one of my customers, one of my patrons who supports my work and buys my work, is a big member of this business community called the Chamber of Commerce. And she said I should get involved here. And I went, oh, cool. So you're an artist. Wow. Let me tell you about all the ways that the Chamber of Commerce supports artists in this community. And let me tell you about all the committees we have. We're so unique. We're not just business people, but we have like 8 committees made up of artists of different types, from fine art to all sorts of painting and sculpture and all sorts of art. And I went on for 15 minutes selling all these 8 or 10 committees, thinking, he's an artist, he's gonna love this. And after 15 minutes of my pitching, sort of all these things that I thought, yeah, this is going to be of interest to him, then I then finally took a breath. I was probably needed a breath. And I said, so Joe, what do you think? And he looked at me and he goes, well, you know, Tony, I really appreciate you telling me about all the art committees. And I'm an artist, and, you know, I'm certainly going to join an art committee because I'm an artist and that's my passion. But to be honest with you, I probably know all those people on those committees because the art community here in Bucks County is pretty small. He said, Tony, what I'm really here for is because I want to meet business people who I don't normally connect with. And why do I want to meet business people? Because right now I'm doing my woodworking out of my garage in my home. And one day I want to have a professional retail space, or at least a studio, if not a retail space. I want to have a studio that's not my garage. Therefore, I'm going to need to meet people that might want to invest in who I am and what I do. I may also need a lawyer along those lines because there's some legal issues. And I may need an accountant because, you know, I'm an artist. I do a lot of my own invoices and billing, but let's face it, we're not all have the same gift. So I might need an accountant at some point. I need a lawyer. I might need a banker because I might need a business loan at some point. I looked at him and I went, oh. And why did I say, oh? Because I just spent the first 15 minutes assuming he was here as an artist to mix with all the art committees. Now, had I rewinded the tape 15 minutes, what I should have done, and that was my biggest lesson learned, is I just wasted, I don't say wasted, but I pretty much wasted 15 minutes of this young man's valuable time. He came here for a purpose. I quickly saw him, created a narrative about who he was, and assumed what he wanted, and pitched him on something that, quite honestly, he appreciated, but that wasn't his reason for walking in the door. And had I given him the opportunity to say, hey, Joe, nice to meet you today in the beginning of the conversation. So what brings you here to the Chamber of Commerce? How do we get to this moment? Tell me your story. And then he might have, we would have saved at least 15 minutes, and it could have been a half hour. Maybe I'm being too kind on my own self. It could have been a half hour that I was pitching him because I was so excited. And that moment really, you know, that young man, and probably it was my boss and other people all along those first 10 years that gently told me, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you talk, right? But as soon as you're an artist, you made this quick narrative and got to the conclusion and went, I know exactly what he wants, when in fact I had no idea why he was there. And so the good news is Joe did end up joining the chamber. I did that listening toward the end, and we got him in the right committees, and he met some great people. Sold some of his work. I don't know. I should check in on him today and find out where he is. Did he get a studio and all of that? But my point in all of this is now, second half of my career, first through 10 years, it was probably that 10th year that I learned this lesson. And then I left the Chamber of Commerce after 4 years because the organization, the nonprofit I worked for, called me and asked me to come back. And they said, listen, you know, you've changed, we've changed the organization, we have an opportunity. So since year 10 to now going into my 20th year, one of the things that I do is meet with prospective major donors, people that can give 10, 20, 50, $100,000 to this cause, to the cause I work for. And you better believe the first thing I do, especially even if I know a little bit about them through the media or through my own database, notes in my database, the first thing I would do is just say, hey, tell me your story. Or if I know a little bit, hey, tell me what's happening recently in your life, what's going on. You know, if they've been with us as a donor, I might say, you know, thank you so much for your support over these years. But I'd love to know, you know, what was it, perhaps if I don't know this, I know they were a donor, right? But I'll say, what was it that first inspired you to make that original gift? And what is it that continues to inspire you to stay with us and help the children or educate people, you know, about the beauty of races so that they don't fall into the trap of fear and discrimination and prejudice against all the isms, you know. But I'll lead with questions, being curious about them. It's almost childlike. I know there's a lot of people that talk about how children are so curious. Hey, mom, dad, why does this happen? Why is the sky blue? What makes a car go? You know, what are we doing tomorrow? You know, kids are really curious. They want to ask questions. And I think as we get older, we learn so much and we think we know all the answers. Therefore, we stop asking questions. So I would say, you know, when you're meeting with someone, be genuine. You know, there'll be a time to share about you and maybe your life or your cause. But I think people are less defensive when you just are genuine and say, tell me about you. Tell me about your interests. What's your story? And let them speak. Because you know what's inevitably going to happen? They're gonna hopefully, if they're comfortable sharing their story, they'll share their story. And in listening to them, quite honestly, you're going to hear whether or not they have any interest in anything you do, and if they have interest, what that interest is. So again, had I listened to Joe, I would have heard his interest was in joining business committees and meeting business people, instead of assuming, oh, he's an artist, he wants X, when in fact he came for Y, and they're completely different things. So I think listening is the best advice I can give to any young person, especially if you're in the position of sales or trying to make deals. Don't be tempted to just go, hit hard. As excited as you are about your product or your mission or whatever it is you're presenting, start off completely counterintuitive, perhaps to most people. Start off with asking them about them or their company or their whatever it is, their interest, what inspires them. And in that, you will hear, A, do they even have an interest in my product, service, mission, whatever it is? And if they don't, probably nothing you're going to do is going to change their mind. So you have to be okay with that too. And that's about saving their time and yours, and very graciously saying, hey, it was great to meet you. Thank you for your time. And some version of, if I could ever be of help to you, then please, look me up, give me a call, maybe give them a business card or shoot them your contact. I know phones, contact, that kind of thing. And then if it goes the other way and they have some interest in your company, your product, your service, your mission, if you're a nonprofit, great, then keep listening, because then they're going to tell you specifically what area or what bucket of your business or your product, your service, your mission that they're going to have interest in. And then and only then, if you can find what interests, or dare I say, inspires them and something in your mission, you can meet them on that journey, boom, that's where it's going to happen. And I think they'll appreciate you speaking to their interests and what they want to do. And again, it may not always be there, so you have to be okay with listening and then graciously thanking them. And sometimes I'm in a position, because I've been doing this for so long, where I'll meet someone and the work we do is to help fight discrimination against vulnerable children. I might meet someone and they say, hey, Tony, what I'm really interested in is, helping women that are abused come out of abuse and become more independent. And I'll say, you know what? That's powerful stuff. And Pearl Buck was a strong leader. Mission that we do does help young girls, many who are trapped in poverty and discrimination. But if you're interested in helping women that are abused come out of abuse, I know an organization, it's called, A Woman's Place or Network of Victims Assistance. And let me share with you, if you'd like, I know one of the directors down there. I'd be happy to make an introduction to that person, because I really appreciate your passion. That's another way of transitioning the conversation to say, I respect what you just told me. And in my mind, I'm saying, okay, not someone who's passionately interested about Pearl Buck's cause, but you know what? I want to help someone out that I know is in that space. And if that person says, yeah, I'd love to speak to Sam or Wendy or Steve or Joe or Sally at that organization, then you be genuine, follow through. Make that email introduction. If the person's in the room, sometimes it's at a cocktail reception or Chamber of Commerce. It was often at these after-work business mixers where they had wine and cheese and a whole bunch of business people are mixing in the room and getting to know each other. Maybe that person's there, you make that personal introduction. Don't forget to make that introduction though. Don't just say, I know somebody you should talk to, and then forget the next day and get busy with life, because you genuinely want to follow through. And why do you do that? Because someday Wendy at A Woman's Place or Network of Victim Assistance may meet somebody who's interested in helping children who are facing discrimination. I would hope she would say, you know who you should talk to? Tony at Pearl Buck, because that's the work that they do. So again, it may seem like, why would I give away a potential prospect? You're not giving away a prospect because they're not really a prospect for you, right? And again, no matter how much you talk, and sometimes over talk, you're going to do the opposite sometimes if you over talk. Not only are they going to get annoyed because you didn't let them speak and you're trying to sell something they're not interested in buying, but we know how this works. It's very possible that person's going to go tell 5 people they know, hey, stay away from that Pearl Buck, or worse, stay away from that Tony Luna at Pearl Buck, because that guy will just talk your ear off, and I don't deal with people like that. So I would say, do the counterintuitive. Biggest lesson I learned was I didn't listen enough the first 10 years. How do you listen? Close your mouth and you ask curious questions about them, their journey, their life, what brought them here today. Tell me what you do. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your business, and let them talk.